Okay.
Here's what's going on. There is a disclosure, we'll call it a disclosure process, right? You could call it disclosure movement, right? And then there's a disclosure process and a disclosure movement. Two. Okay, well, what's going on here? What are you talking about, Bassett? What do you mean? Simple. There is a small d disclosure process underway that you could even call a movement. We'll call it the small d disclosure movement. It's been going on for 77 years. It picked up speed around the year 2000, right? It's had some, ups and downs, but overall, since 1947, there has been a study process of small d disclosure, the revealing and bringing forth of information about the extraterrestrial presence and everything attached to that. In other words, information is coming out. Some of it is it's coming from many different directions, including even the government, without question. So over these 77 years, the government's put a lot of stuff out. A lot of people don't realize how much. But of course, the people in our world, the people that are in part of the UAP activism and research have brought a lot of information out. The bringing forward of information is disclosure. It is disclosing information. That process has picked up, right? The amount of information that we're getting, right? The structure to get more is picking up, right? And that is a small d disclosure movement that is underway. There is another movement going alongside of it, and these two are synchronistic. The other movement is capital D disclosure. What is that?
Yeah,
it is the movement, the effort, the project, whatever the hell you want to call it, to get the confirmation of the extraterrestrial presence from the President of the United States. Period.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Interesting.
Okay. And that will either come from the President of the United States first, or it will come from the President after another one or two heads of state have done it. But one way or another, it's going to come from the President of the United States. That is capital D disclosure, right? Now, I understand it's confusing. And so when people sometimes people are talking about the disclosure process, me, for instance, I'm actually referring to capital D disclosure process, because that is it has its own track.
No, I get it.
You got it?
I get
it.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I describe it differently, though, which is so let me get your take on this, and please continue. But I say the little d is just the basic disclosure, meaning we're not alone. They visited us. And then capital D disclosure is all the other stuff that comes with it, right? Like
I got to turn that on its head. I'll turn it. Okay. Small d disclosure is everything. Everything, every doc that's turned up, every book that's been written, every report, every MUFON study, everything that has been done to get information is small d disclosure. All right.
Okay.
And that's going to continue. And then capital D disclosure is the effort to get the president to confirm it. Now,
sure.
The reason they're synergistic is obvious. All of the small d disclosure that has taken place, either from the government or because of research by MUFON or others, the documentaries, all in the UAP, ET, citizen science effort, journalists, everything that has come out over the years has obviously helped us get closer to the confirmation event, capital D disclosure. And it's also the case that once we have capital D disclosure, once the president does confirm the ET presence, can we all agree that the ability to get more small d disclosure, more information out sooner, obviously is extremely enhanced. And so they are synergistic. They are wound around each other. And this confusion is non-trivial, right? To the extent that people get this, it's going to be a lot easier for them to follow it, participate it, and support it. Okay. And so there are people out there that are hell-bent to get more information. God bless them. There are people out there that are hell-bent to get this confirmation from the president. I'm one of them. God bless them. And there are people doing both. And that includes me. Okay. And so the things I do helps to try to get information, but it is not, and get more information out, fine, and help others do it. The Hollywood Disclosure Alliance is all about helping to get more information out, right? But that is not the core of what I do. The core of what I do is to get to the place where the president can disclose. That is not just another thing. The confirmation of the ET presence, as I have said, and other people are now saying, will be the most important event in human history.
Sure.
No, I don't mean to diss the ancient Egyptians or whatever the hell went on back then, okay, or even the 1800s, whatever. No, it's the most important event in human history. It is a huge deal. All right.
No, I agree.
It will change the world. Okay. So it's something that obviously we have to have. So that is the background for trying to tell you where we are now.
Before we get into where we are now, just let me just insert one little thing, which just to get your take on this as well, just while we're here, because otherwise I'll forget. Is it, if we're doing this sort of public or this, right, what this little D disclosure is happening, we're having hearings, we're trying to get legislation passed, people are coming out, telling stories, books, documentary, all these things you said, interviews, right? Of whistleblowers coming forward, MUFON investigations. Won't people like get that confirmation like before the president? Does that make sense? Like, will there be a moment behind the scenes in government somewhere where people go, stop, stop, stop. We finally got the truth. Now we need to present this to the president so he can tell the American people. Or how do you see that logistically working? Does that make sense? That press conference coming about?
Well, you've struck on the third element here. All right. Okay. So we've established that small D disclosures have been going on for 77 years. Okay. We've established that there is an effort, right, underway that's less known to establish the basis for the president to finally confirm this. And I use this analogy. Okay. You know, for almost 90 years, from 1875 all the way up to 1964. Right. Everybody, there's tons of people that knew we needed justice for people of color. We knew that there was an injustice in our society. They knew it had to be fixed. Right. And they're doing all they can to fix it here, fix it there, whatever, get the message out. Fine. But obviously, that wasn't going to do it. It wasn't going to be enough. In order to actually make serious process, this need, this requirement, this goal of fairness and justice for all people in the United States, including people of color, had to be formalized. It had to be confirmed by law, right?
Sure.
It couldn't just be, well, if enough people feel it's the right thing to do, it'll all work out. No, it won't. You had to have the Civil Rights Act, right?
Sure.
In other words, there are things that, let me tell you, there's a lot of things that can only happen in this country if there is a confirmation and legislation behind it, right? People say, oh, no, you don't need it. The hell you don't. Okay.
That's interesting. So you think legislation will follow that confirmation event, as you put it, which I like.
No, confirmation will follow the legislation. Okay. Now, in the case of the civil rights situation, the prize was a piece of legislation. Correct. That is not the case with this issue, because this issue is quite different. And one of the reasons it's different from the civil rights movement was that the government did not go to enormous lengths for 90 years to somehow convince us there was no segregation. There was no injustice. Everything is fine. What are you talking about? No, they didn't do that. They acknowledge there's a problem. This is different. The government has said there's no there there. All right. And that's why we have to have that confirmation. All right. Plus, the issue is of a magnitude. Think about it. Is there a more significant national security and or worldview changing thing than this? And so the idea that, I don't know, some undersecretary to the undersecretary is going to come out and say, yeah, it's all true and that's enough. No, it have to come from the head of state, and not just our head of state. Every head of state in this planet will, in short order, confirm the ET presence, including the UN and the Vatican. All right. So where are we there? Here's where we are. We're on the 1 yard line. We've been slogging up this field since 1947. It's been tough. Recently, we made it to the 1-2 yard line.
We're at the 1 yard line, you think?
That's right.
To score.
So score. Now, guess what happens in football when you get to the 1 or the 2 yard line? The other team digs in, right?
Quarterback really sneak.
Tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, you're right.
That's right. That's what happens.
Everyone up on the line.
And so we've gotten the 1 yard line, and then the empire struck back, and it's pushed back, but it's not going to work. It's not going to be sufficient, but it has definitely slowed things down. However, it would not have been enough. In other words, the pushback to the disclosure, capital D disclosure movement, which was eventually championed by a number of members of Congress, including some of the most powerful, and 4 years of legislation that had never existed before, would have not worked if it wasn't for the political situation that is coinciding with it. All right. And so there were certain key decisions that needed to be made by certain key members of Congress. And I think they were prepared to make them. But things dragged on. And by the way, there were other events happening. The COVID was one, the awful war in the Ukraine was another. And then just in case that wasn't enough, you've got a catastrophe in the Middle East. What can I say? All right. And so you take all of that, you combine that with the most unstable, unpredictable political situation in America. And so a lot of the key decisions that needed to be made by the right people were deferred because it's like, this is not the right time to make that
extenuating
move.
Circumstances. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And some of it was hardcore politics, meaning, I could do this, but it could result in my candidate losing the election. And so, okay, I get it. All right. And people are concerned. Oh my God, and we've lost some battles. Okay. And the most famous one, of course, was the destruction of the Schumer amendment. There was not amendment, but act that was submitted to the 2024 bill. Okay. And so that was a setback. But guess what?
We're back.
We're back. We're back big time.